Hey everybody, Funky McClunky here, and in my daily real life outside of toys, I actually work in marketing, television marketing, entertainment marketing specifically, and that's relevant to today's video because I'm going to kind of apply those skills and that experience to toys. I had a boss maybe many years ago, too many years ago, who whenever she saw a marketing campaign or a TV show or a film or something that didn't make a lot of sense, it didn't really add up, she would call it a feathered fish. And I remember being very confused about that in the beginning, like, what in the hell is a feathered fish? And I don't know if I asked somebody or if I looked it up or what, but she used it enough to know to where I needed to know what it meant. And turns out the phrase means something that doesn't really know what it wants to be or what it is, or maybe it exists partially in one world and partially in another. An example would be a marketing campaign that the target audience doesn't really make sense to them, or a movie like that famous cult movie Tiptoes, where Gary Oldman plays a little person, and it was supposed to be this like serious movie, but it was marketed as like a rom-com, and it was very confusing for anyone who saw it to even know what the heck it was. That film is a feathered fish. So with that in mind, today, we're going to be talking about Hasbro's Star Wars Retro series. So let's get to it. Okay, so in a previous video, I compared Mattel's Masters of the Universe Origins packaging and figures to Hasbro's Star Wars Retro packaging and figures because they're kind of existing in the same space. So I'm not going to get too into that. Today we're going to talk more about like what Hasbro has been focused on in the Retro series, and maybe where, because this is not a channel where I just complain about things on the internet. I like the series and I want to see it get better. So in this video, we're going to talk about where they are, what they've done, and maybe ways that it would be cool if they did a little better in the future. So as of yet, as far as I know, and let me know in the comments if I'm forgetting anything, Hasbro's Star Wars Retro series has focused on four main categories. First is re-releasing original Kenner figures in the weathered retro packaging with the sticker. That means like figures that we got in the 70s and 80s that they are re-releasing that look exactly the same. That's the first kind. The second kind would be figures that are in that style, 5 points of articulation, Kenner style on the same kind of card, but from Disney Plus series, like in this case, Ahsoka. That's the second category. The third category would be figures that from the original trilogy that they never made in the 70s and 80s, like this Mon Mothma figure here. I opened her because I want this in my collection, in my display. So that's why that's there. And then the fourth category, is, and this is kind of a subcategory, is these weird prototype figures, which I think they're kind of neat. They're kind of fun at first, mainly because they're on a really high-quality, thick stock card with this hologram look here, and they actually have a picture on the back instead of just text like the regular retro figures do. Ultimately, the prototype thing is kind of pointless and silly, but they're neat. I usually pick them up. I don't collect every color combination or anything, but I usually get one of each. Anyway, so those are the four main categories. Oftentimes, these are available individually at retail or exclusives through Target, Target.com or whatever. I never see these things on the pegs at my local Target or Walmart or anywhere, really. I mean, rarely. Occasionally, I do. I think I was there the other day, and there was like one retro Ahsoka figure at Target. And that was the first time I'd seen any retros at my local store. I know at other places in other regions, they're clogging the shelves. And it's usually the ones that nobody wants that are clogging the shelves. We'll get to that in a second. And then other times, they're sold in sets. Like you can buy the first 12 Kenner figures in sets of 6 in boxes. You can also get this, Return of the Jedi. This was an exclusive, I think maybe like you could get it online. You can get it at Shop Disney. I've never seen these in stores. I don't think you can get them in the stores. And the Mon Mothma figure is the only new one in there, and she's mixed in with all the old ones. So, or with redos of the old ones, I guess I should say. So, getting back to the feathered fish metaphor, people who work at Hasbro they have access to market research and numbers that I don't, obviously. So they might have a different opinion of this. And any of you, feel free to chime in the comments below. But I think that Hasbro's Star Wars Retro line is a feathered fish. I don't think it knows what it wants to be or who it's for. And the reason I say that is because, again, the numbers might tell a different story, but it seems to me like most of the people who are going to be buying these figures are people like me who grew up with the original Kenner figures and would like to fill holes in our collection of characters that were never released, or generally just we like figures that are of that aesthetic. So who exactly else is buying these figures? It's usually the people that I see complaining on the internet or in real life about the retro line being unnecessary or being stupid are people who are more into fancy figures, many points of articulation, much better detail, the Black Series vintage collection, stuff like that. It's not usually people like me. Also, children probably aren't going to get super excited about picking up a Mon Mothma figure to play with, so these aren't probably for kids either. So the choices that they're making in terms of which characters they make figures of in the retro series seems kind of confusing to me. Am I crazy? They seem to be focusing a whole lot on re-releasing figures that already exist from the 70s and 80s, or characters from the Disney Plus series, whether they are successful, shows or not. I mean, I've got, where is this Book of Boba Fett series? Like, the show was not super popular. They still managed to release a line of figures from it, like a year and a half after the show, but still. It seems to me that there are precious few figures based on the original trilogy that were never made, released in this series. Mon Mothma, Grand Moff Tarkin. You had to buy a board game to get this guy, and his head sculpt is atrocious. That does not look anything like Peter Cushing at all. But hey, I'm thankful to have this figure. It makes no sense that we wouldn't have a Grand Moff Tarkin figure, so I'm glad to have it. And then there was like another one that was like the Luke Snowspeeder figure, also came with a board game. I've got him somewhere around here. And that's kind of it. The rest of it is retreads and or things from the new series. And you could say, well, they're just reusing old molds, blah, 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 to do the remakes of the original figures like Admiral Akbar and all that. But A, that's not true because most of those molds were destroyed and they're having to be recreated anyway. And B, they don't seem to have a problem making new molds for figures from the Disney Plus shows, so they could easily make, a big Starklighter figure. Which brings me to the next phase of this conversation, which is how things could be better, in my humble opinion, missed opportunities that could be grabbed, things that would actually sell in the retro line that would take relatively little effort. Okay, so let's get into it. So first of all, this Darth Vader is from the Obi-Wan series, and this is kind of an in-between figure because obviously this is a character that has been made before, but it always struck me that they never remade Obi-Wan or Darth Vader especially with this kind of lightsaber or with a fabric like a soft goods cape in the original Kenner run. So the fact that they did that in the retro series, this is great. This fits in with my old figures perfectly. I like this. New versions of old figures, great. Characters that were never made, great. No Return of the Jedi Rebel display is complete without Mon Mothma, great to have. Same with Tarkin, we already talked about him. Here's another remake. This is from the Book of Boba Fett series, but this is a remade Tusken Raider. Same accessory, same head, same body, new cloth goods rather than vinyl cape, and a new paint job. Who wouldn't want to army build with these things? Who wouldn't want to have, a handful of these guys in their original, mixed in with their originals? I love it. I think that's great. That's a great way to do it. Droids. Take your R2 figure. This figure is made by Stan Solo, who doesn't like me very much, but I don't care. He makes great figures. I like the figures. How there are not more droids like this, I mean, this is a simple R2 body with a different label and a different dome on it. They could do this just by repainting. They could release a 6-pack of just R2, R4, R5 units, and it would fly off the shelves. Who doesn't love droids? Who doesn't love droids? On that note, this is from Has No Talent. This is just another protocol droid. Red, done in, the vacuum metal. I mean, this is gorgeous. I love this guy. And he did a whole bunch of these in different colors, different styles. There's no reason Hasbro can't do that. Again, everybody loves droids. This guy. This is from Trash Compactor Customs. This is the only figure I think I've ever deliberately given a garbage paint job to because he's supposed to look filthy. But I love this guy. He looks great in my Mos Eisley setup. Everybody would like that. Then we get into some more obvious ones. Rebel Fleet Trooper. Pro Custom Figures has made one. This one's from Stan Solo. How we never got a Rebel trooper, a Rebel fleet trooper in the original line is just crazy to me. That'd be like not having stormtroopers. You got to have the good guys to fight the bad guys. These are soldiers, Rebel soldiers. Come on, Hasbro, make this guy. Medical Frigate Leia. This is from Rob Brown at Outer Rim Creations, the great Rob Brown. I love this figure. I made a medical frigate Luke also to go with her. But I mean, this is an easy figure to make. If Hasbro wants to be super lazy about it, they could even reuse a Leia head from somewhere else. This is a new Leia head sculpt. It looks great. This guy. I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name that they gave to him in the expanded universe. Actually, I am going to try. It's like Grindan. I don't know. I don't care. He's Long Snoot to me. He's the spy who ratted out Obi-Wan and Luke in Mos Eisley, and this is an easy custom that a lot of people make. I made this one. Hasbro could make this. Great figure to have on the shelves. Everybody want it in their collection. And then this one. Biggs Darklighter. How have we never gotten a retro-style Biggs Darklighter figure? He was Luke's best friend. I know he was only in the film, the finished film, for a few seconds, but everybody who would buy retro-style figures knows who this dude is. You know what I mean? This one is from Pro Custom Figures, and I know they caught some flack for the paint job, which I like the figure. Mine doesn't have a particularly bad paint job. I know some of them did. He kind of looks like a Muppet, but the sculpt is great. And I love having this in the collection because I think if you're being real and you're being honest with yourself and you look back at some of the original Kidder figures, paint jobs, paint apps were not always awesome. So I don't mind a little imperfection in that way. So I would really, in summary here, just like to see Hasbro take a more focused approach to the retro series so that it doesn't go down the path that I feel like it's going on right now, which is that they're going to keep kind of taking a feathered fish approach to it, and then it's not going to do well because they're not actually producing the figures that people want to buy, and then they're going to stop making them, and they're going to look at their numbers and they're going to say, well, it just wasn't a successful line. And I've seen that happen in the TV business many times where they have a solid concept for a TV show, start producing it, maybe it comes out and it gets good reviews, it gets micromanaged into oblivion by the powers that be. There are too many cooks in the kitchen. It gets watered down. They move it maybe to a different night on cable TV or a different streaming service, and then nobody knows where to find it. Viewership numbers start going down. People don't really care about it. It's not in the press anymore. It gets bad ratings. It gets canceled. People who loved the show are like, what the hell happened? That was a great show until you guys ruined it. And the executives at the TV company are like, well, nobody was watching the show. It didn't do well. And you're like, well, that's because you guys ruined it. Like, if you had just taken the concept of the show and done it in a way that made sense without, putting it through all those focus groups and the committees and all that stuff, then it might have had a fighting chance. I feel like that's what's happening with the Hasbro Retro line here. They need to take it back to the basics. They need to actually figure out what people want to buy, what characters people actually care about having in their collection, and focus on that. Make it be about the collectors. It's for the collectors. It's about the collectors. Target audience is me. It's people like me. It's not anything else, unless I'm crazy and I'm just totally missing it. Anyway, been talking about this for too long now. 12 or 13 minutes, but I just hope that it gets better because I like the series, and every time Yakface or any of the other kind of news aggregator Instagram accounts or blogs or whatever post about new figures that are coming, and they talk about retro figures, the comments are always just full of people who are like, this line sucks, they're peg warmers, nobody wants these, I want more vintage collection, da, 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 da. And that's only one side of the story. I see lots of vintage collection and Black Series figures whenever new ones are released. I see them warming the pegs at the store. Right now, my local Target has way more of the Black Chrysanthemum and the Tuscan Warrior Lady and Paz Vizsla and, of course, Landos. They have way more of those than the Retro Series. warming the pegs for months until they get clearanced off. You don't hear me saying that they need to cancel the Vintage Collection or cancel the Black Series. I just think they need to be a little bit more methodical about which characters they choose to make and fix their distribution issues, because obviously there's something weird going on there where one part of the country has a bazillion of something and another part of the country can't seem to find it. It just seems a little crazy. So, hey, Hasbro, I love you. I just wish you'd get your act together with some of this stuff, because I love to buy these figures. I want to give you my money. You just, I don't know what you got going on over there. So anyway, that's my Hasbro Star Wars Retro Series rant. Let me know what you think in the comments. Tell me I'm crazy. Tell me I'm stupid. Tell me I'm a genius. I like the genius stuff. I'll take the stupid stuff too. Whatever. Let me know what you think. And until next time, stay funky, everybody.